A young woman, dressed in designer clothes, stood beside her luxurious Lamborghini, frowning at the greasy mechanic trying to fix it. "Be careful with my car," she snapped loudly, drawing attention from the crowd. "People like you should stick to fixing old trucks, not cars worth more than your life." The mechanic, a humble man with oil-stained hands, quietly continued his work. He didn't respond, just smiled faintly. After a few minutes he stood up, wiped his hands, and said, "Try it now, Mom." She rolled her eyes, but sat inside and turned the key. The engine roared perfectly. The loud purr of the Lamborghini made her grin for a split second, but she quickly masked it with pride. "Well, you finally did something right," she said, stepping out and tossing a crumpled note at him as payment. It wasn't even half of what he charged. The mechanic looked down at the money, then back up at her. "Ma'am, this job cost more than this," he said softly. She scoffed. "You should be thankful I'm even paying you. People like you beg for such chances." The crowd around murmured uncomfortably, but she didn't care. The mechanic didn't argue. He simply nodded and said, "All right then. Have a safe drive." He turned away, wiping his hands with a cloth, while she smirked and got into her car. The Lamborghini sped away, leaving behind a trail of dust and whispers. "Such arrogance," one old man muttered. "That mechanic's too kind." But the mechanic just smiled faintly and went back to his workshop. Inside, rows of luxury cars waited for his attention. His employees greeted him respectfully, calling him Sir. He nodded but said nothing. Later that evening, the young woman, her name was Alina, was on her way to a friend's birthday party. The city lights reflected off her car's shiny surface as she hummed along to the music. But after a few miles, the car started making strange noises again. "What now?" she muttered, annoyed. Moments later, the engine sputtered and died right in the middle of a busy street. Cars honked behind her as she tried to restart it, but it was useless. "Ugh, this stupid car!" she yelled, slamming the steering wheel. Embarrassed and frustrated, she stepped out, waving her manicured hands to stop the traffic. No one helped. People just shook their heads or went around her. Finally, a tow truck pulled up. To her shock, the same mechanic stepped out. He looked surprised but not angry. "Looks like we meet again," he said calmly. Alina felt her cheeks burn. "Just fix it again and make it quick," she said coldly. The mechanic nodded, opened the hood, and within minutes got the engine running. "It's fixed," he said simply. She crossed her arms. "Fine, send the bill." He didn't answer. Instead, he said, "You can drive it to my workshop tomorrow for a proper service." "It's risky to drive it in this condition." Alina rolled her eyes. "I'll take my chances." She sped off again without a thank you. The mechanic watched her leave, sighing. The next morning, at his high-end auto company headquarters, Ravel Motors, the mechanic changed into a crisp shirt and suit. He wasn't just a mechanic. He was the owner. He often helped in the workshop to stay connected with his roots. Hard work had built his empire, not arrogance. That afternoon, Alina arrived at Ravel Motors, not knowing who owned it. She wanted to service her Lamborghini properly this time. The receptionist greeted her warmly. "Good afternoon, ma'am." "Do you have an appointment?" Alina said. "No, but I'm sure you can make one for me. My car needs urgent service." The receptionist nodded and called the manager. Soon the mechanic, now in his suit, walked into the room. Alina froze. "You again?" she said, eyes wide. He smiled politely. "Welcome to Ravel Motors, Miss Alina. I'm the owner here. How may I help you?" Her jaw dropped. "You, the owner?" she stammered. "But you were." "Fixing cars." He nodded. "I was. I started as a mechanic. Even now, I like helping my staff when things get busy. It keeps me grounded." Alina couldn't find words. Her arrogance melted away, replaced by shame. I didn't know," she murmured. He smiled again, his tone kind but firm. "It's okay. But it's always better to treat everyone with respect. You never know who you're talking to." His words hit her harder than any insult could. She lowered her eyes, feeling truly small for the first time. He continued, "Your car has some deeper engine issues. I'll have my best team take care of it, no charge." Alina's eyes widened. "No, please, let me pay. After the way I treated you, I don't deserve free service." He chuckled softly. "It's not about deserving, Ms. Alina. It's about doing what's right." For the first time, she saw not a mechanic, but a man of integrity and wisdom. She watched as his employees addressed him with respect and admiration. She realized money could buy luxury, but not class, and humility was something her wealth could never replace. The next day, when she came to pick up her car, she brought a small gift, a handwritten note and a bouquet. The note read, "I'm deeply sorry for my words. You taught me more about character than anyone ever has." He read it quietly, smiled and said, "Apology accepted." She thanked him sincerely this time, shaking his hand with respect. "You've changed how I see people," she said. He replied, "Sometimes life teaches us through the people we least expect." She nodded, and for once drove away not with pride, but with humility and gratitude. Months later, Alina started volunteering at local workshops, helping train underprivileged youth. She remembered the mechanic's words and carried them like a lesson for life. One afternoon, during a charity event, she saw him again. He was speaking to young mechanics about never giving up, no matter what others said. Their eyes met and she smiled warmly. He smiled back, a silent acknowledgement that she had truly changed. The woman who once mocked a poor mechanic was now helping others rise, inspired by the same man she had once insulted without thought. Years passed, and Alina became known not for her wealth, but for her compassion. She often said in interviews, "The most important day of my life wasn't when I bought my Lamborghini, it was the day it broke down." People would laugh, but she meant every word. That breakdown had rebuilt her from within. It taught her to value people, not appearances. And somewhere in a quiet corner of the city, the humble mechanic who changed her life continued to help others, proving that true richness lies not in what you own, but in who you are. The crowd applauded as the Lamborghini purred smoothly. Surprised, the woman stepped out, her arrogance fading. "How did you fix it so fast?" she asked. The mechanic replied calmly, "Respect and skill make every job easier." Then a man in a suit walked over, shaking the mechanic's hand. "Ready to go, sir?" he asked. The woman's eyes widened. The poor mechanic owned the entire auto company. "I was just helping my staff today," he said kindly. Embarrassed, she lowered her head. "I'm sorry," she whispered. He smiled. "No problem. Just remember, never judge people by appearances." For a moment everything around her went quiet. The people who had watched her insult the mechanic now stared at her in disbelief. Her face turned pale as the realization sank in. The man she had mocked publicly was far more successful than she could ever imagine. The arrogance that once gleamed in her eyes had vanished. She looked at him again, this time not with pride, but with genuine shame. "I didn't mean to offend you," she stammered softly. He just nodded, his calm demeanor showing no trace of ego or revenge. He turned to leave, but the woman couldn't move. Her heart pounded with regret. She had always believed money and status defined a person's worth, but standing there, she realized how wrong she was. The crowd began to disperse, but whispers lingered in the air. She watched the man step into a sleek black car, the company logo on it matching the one embroidered on his uniform. The irony struck her. The man she looked down on built the very car she worshipped. The truth humbled her in ways she had never experienced before. That night, the woman, whose name was Maya, couldn't sleep. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw the mechanic's calm smile. Not mocking, not proud, just peaceful. It haunted her more than anger ever could. She thought about how she had grown up believing that appearance and wealth made someone important. Her parents had spoiled her. Her friends admired her only for her possessions, and her entire life revolved around showing off. But that one moment, that single smile, had shattered her illusion of superiority. For the first time, she saw herself clearly. The next morning, Maya decided to visit the auto company headquarters. She wanted to apologize properly. As she entered the grand building, she was surprised to see employees greeting her respectfully, assuming she was a new client. The receptionist asked, "Do you have an appointment, ma'am?" Maya hesitated, then said, "I want to meet Mr. Arjun, the owner." The receptionist smiled politely. "He's in the service bay helping our new interns today." Maya blinked in surprise. The owner of a multi-million-dollar company was working hands-on with new mechanics? Her curiosity grew, along with her respect. She followed the receptionist's directions and found Arjun surrounded by a group of young trainees. He was explaining something about engine alignment, his sleeves rolled up, a hint of grease still on his hands. Maya stood quietly at the entrance watching. There was no pride in his posture, no sign of superiority, just dedication. He noticed her after a moment and gave a small nod. "Good morning, Ms. Maya," he said politely, as if yesterday's incident had never happened. "Good morning," she replied nervously. I came to apologize for how I behaved." He wiped his hands and looked at her kindly. "There's no need for that," he said gently. "Sometimes we see the world through tinted glass. It takes experience to clean the lens." His words hit her deeply. "Still, I was rude," she said, voice trembling. "You didn't deserve that." Arjun smiled faintly. "We all make mistakes. What matters is that we learn from them." Maya looked down, her eyes moist. "You're a good man," she said softly. "Better than most people I know." He chuckled lightly. "I just try to stay honest. Life is simpler that way." Maya stayed for a while watching him work. She saw how he treated his employees, not as workers, but as equals. He guided them, joked with them, and even helped them clean up afterward. Every person there respected him deeply, not because of his wealth, but because of his humility. Maya realized this was true leadership, quiet, steady, and compassionate. When he finished his work, she asked, "How did you become so successful?" Arjun smiled, leaning against a car. "By failing many times, and by never thinking I was better than anyone else." They talked for a long time. Maya shared how she had grown up shielded from struggle, never having to earn anything. Arjun listened patiently, occasionally nodding. "Maybe it's not too late to start," he said gently. "We all have something to learn, even if we start late." His words inspired her. She asked if she could visit again to learn more about cars, about hard work, and maybe about humility too. Arjun agreed. "You're welcome here any time," he said with a smile. "Just don't bring your ego along." She laughed softly, her first genuine laugh in days. Over the next few weeks, Maya began visiting the workshop regularly. She started by observing, then slowly helped with small tasks. The workers were surprised at first. The same woman who once mocked them was now cleaning tools and learning from them. But Arjun's kindness had rubbed off on her, and soon everyone accepted her warmly. She learned about engines, teamwork, and patience. Each day she grew quieter, more grounded. She even began helping the company organize community workshops to teach underprivileged youth about mechanics. For the first time, her wealth felt useful. Months passed, and Maya's transformation became visible to everyone around her. Her friends noticed she no longer bragged about her possessions or looked down on others. When asked about her change, she would only smile and say, "Someone taught me that pride has no horsepower." She had started a foundation in collaboration with Arjun's company, funding training programs for young mechanics. Her name, once associated with vanity, was now linked to compassion. Arjun watched her progress with quiet pride, never taking credit. To him, seeing someone choose humility over arrogance was the greatest reward. One evening, as the sun dipped low over the city, Maya visited the workshop for the last time before moving abroad to expand the foundation. She found Arjun working as usual, sleeves rolled up, same faint smile on his face. "You never stop working, do you?" she teased. He laughed. "It keeps me grounded. Besides, engines are honest. They only respond to effort, not ego." She nodded thoughtfully. "You changed my life, Arjun. I'll never forget that." He shook his head gently. "You changed yourself, Maya. I just turned the key, you started the engine." Tears glimmered in her eyes as she smiled. "That's the best compliment anyone's ever given me," she said softly. They shook hands, and she left with a heart lighter than ever before. As she drove away, the same Lamborghini roared to life beneath her. The car that once symbolized arrogance now represented transformation. She no longer drove it to show off, but as a reminder of how easily pride can stall and how humility can get life moving again. The engine's purr echoed behind her, steady and powerful. Much like the lessons she'd learned, years later, people often told Maya's story, the arrogant woman who mocked a mechanic only to find her greatest teacher in him. And somewhere, in a quiet corner of his workshop, Arjun would smile whenever he heard it. He never told anyone the full story. He didn't need to. The lesson had already spread. The true worth isn't measured by what you wear, drive, or own, but by the respect you give and the kindness you carry. Because, as Arjun always said, engines may need fuel to run, but people run on respect.